we have two speakers here today, Mr. Godwin Moka and Omoba Deji Irawo. We also have our two backup resource persons, Mojima Kojola and Titi Ojuri. We also need to quickly let you know that whatever it is you want to discuss with us privately, because this is safe space, we will assure you of your confidentiality. And so please send the message to myself privately. And if I receive anything privately, then I know you don't want your name disclosed, but the content will be disclosed. We are live on Facebook, and we also want you to know that we are recording today's session. Once again, we thank everybody for joining us. I'll just quickly talk about what rape means. There is a new definition for the word rape, and it says it's an unlawful sexual intercourse or any other sexual penetration of the vagina, anus, or mouth of another person with or without force by a sex organ, other body parts, or foreign object without the consent of the victim. Once again, my name is Tom Okewale Shonaya, and I will just quickly call on our first speaker. He is Deji Irawo. He's a media executive, a men resource person, a gentleman, a good man, and an upright standing citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, I give the floor to Deji Irawo for your 7 minutes.
So to go straight to the point, it's a reality that rape is a very condemnable act. Based on the definition that you have just put together, we can see that, you know, it takes various forms and shape. But the issue there, like you said, is that there's no consent in the narrative. Globally, men hold a very key, very strategic position, you know, globally. We're presidents, we're governors, we're, you know, CEOs, you know, all over the world. You find men in very strategic, you know, positions that help to shape culture, help to shape norms, help to shape value. So we believe that with all this influence that men have, you know, we should play a very, you know, pivotal role when it comes to ensuring that we refuse to allow this dastardly act to continue. Rape is obviously 5 minutes to somebody, but it's a lifetime for somebody else. But so I have laid that foundation to agree that, you know, men play a very key role in how, you know, stopping this menace and influencing this. The question is, how did we get here? Like I normally would say, the entire conversation of rape stems from the number 2 rule, or what we call the man box. The man box is the set of acceptable values of what we think a man should be. Once a child is born into this earth and he has his male, as you can see that he has, you know, features that make him male, there's what we call the man box, or the masculine ideology that a boy must conform to for us to validate him, you know, as a man. If you do not follow these tenets, then you have not really become a real man. You are not a man's man. So we do that. So there are like 6, 7 of them, and I wouldn't want to run through all of them, but I'm going to run through the first 3 because they play a key role in what we're addressing today. Number 1, there's a subconscious, you know, socialization of boys to think that they are superior to girls. Is the number 1 code, that you are superior to the girl, that the girl is not up to you in any capacity, mentally, emotionally, physically, strength-wise, that you're supposed to dominate and you're superior. Second one, which is very key and very central to this narrative, is the mindset that, you know, a woman is the object of your sexual gratification. So boys are taught this, you know, from as early as, you know, possible, that a woman's body is what you have a right to. And then at the end of the day, you know, you can just take what you have. So we start this entire narrative of, you know, getting sex from a woman to gratify, you know, your sexual desire, and also to prove that you can be a man. So the conversation goes to how many can you do, how fast can you do, how many can you get involved in. And the society has a way of, you know, showering encomiums on you. When we say that you're a ladies' man, we call you a playboy and all those kind of things. And then then the third thing is when you tell boys that, oh, it's weakness to love, it's you know, you can't get emotional, you can't cry and things like that. So at the end of the day, you have this conversation. So when you start this thing, we realize at the end of the day, what we're doing is the fact that this sexualization of boys starts from a very young age. So once you start that a woman is, you know, your object of your sexual desire, that thing is said multiply. It's not just said in one place. It's said, you know, at home. You see maybe your dad or your mom or adults around you just change women like rappers and do some funny things and stuff like that. And then you also realize that at the end of the day, you also have a lot of media. Media is very interesting. You have, entertainment is saying the same thing. Culture is saying the same thing. There's nobody facing the law, because you don't really find many men who have been caught and they are shamed publicly for everybody to see that you cannot have that narrative. So really, at the end of the day, you find out that we're the ones who raise these guys who become sexual predators based on what we think is the acceptable norm of how boys should be raised.
Thank you very much. You kept to your 7 minutes. You are truly a gentleman. Thank you. I'm now going to call on the DG of NAPTIP is unable to join us, but she has sent in somebody who is very capable, who has been doing this with him. Mr. Godwin Moka is the Director of Research and Program Development of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking Persons, NAPTIP. He will be taking his 7 minutes now. Immediately after him, we will be taking our questions and answers. Mr. Moka, please take the floor.
Once again, thank you for this opportunity. I don't want to look at what rape is. I'm very happy that you made the definition, which is progressive. I don't want to see what precisely the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act says, which is in line with what you said. It said that rape is when a person intentionally penetrates the vagina, anus, or mouth of another person with any part of his body or anything else without consent, or where such consent is obtained by force or means of threats or intimidation of any kind, or by fear of harm, or by any means of false and fraudulent representation as to the nature of the act or the use of any substance or addictive of taking away the consent of such a person. I say in the case of a married person, if somebody impersonates his or her spouse, then it says, so both males and females are protected by the VAP Act. And it's something that NAPTIP has assiduously been trying to enforce since 2015 with our partners in the civil society and other law enforcement agencies. I must say that in 2019 October, precisely, the Sexual Offender Register was set up by NAPTIP in accordance with the Act. And since that time, we've had quite a lot of input from states and from our own sources of convicted persons. And about 2 weeks ago, we actually published the names of some people who were convicted for rape. We have other kinds of offenses in the FAP covered by the FAP Act, including the sexual, spousal battery, abandonment of children, neglect, and all types, and all kinds of stalking, and so on and so forth. But we are going to talk about rape. It's a very precise act, and that's where we're going. We say that since 2019, for example, we had about 83 cases that have been investigated. 51 are in court already, and we've had 5 convictions. And as we know, our court system is not as fast as we expect it to be. The VAP Act right now covers the FCT, and so we were working very closely with the FCT Chief Judge to ensure that there's a special court designated for rape cases, and that rape cases are taken as quickly as possible. One of the problems we see is that victims of rape hitherto have been treated with a lot of insensitivity. We have people who are questioning their morality, questioning their actions, or whether they actually attracted this crime to themselves. And it's part of the theories of crime. They say they are victim-induced crimes. But then the question is this: it's not about what somebody wears or what somebody does. It's about what you do as a perpetrator. And that's the emphasis of our message. Because we've had people being raped now inside churches, people who are raped in mosques, people who are raped when they are wearing hijab, people who are raped on the street, people who are raped in their own houses. So it's not about the victim, it's about the perpetrator. And just like Deji said earlier, the culture of domination and the male-oriented culture is something that we need to look at. Manliness is not defined by how much you oppress those who are weak. Manliness is defined by how you relate with your males and advance the society. And I think this is a message that needs to be sent out. And also that when people are raising their male children, they should raise them to be gentlemen, to be good husbands, to be good brothers, to be good friends, and to be good sons too, because we pay a lot of emphasis to raising the girl child. They're told how to sit, they're told how to carry themselves, what not to do, so that they are respectable. But when it comes to the boy child, it looks like we believe that they will raise themselves. And of course, when they are raised by the street, of course, this is the kind of thing you are seeing. And also, when this COVID-19 lockdown started, the DG NAPTIP made at least 2 different social media broadcasts on the issue of domestic violence and rape, because we're finding very hideous cases of incest, sodomy of boys. We're seeing neighbors breaking into houses and raping their neighbors' children and all that. And unfortunately, it has become a pandemic of its own all over the country now. We're seeing the thing occurring everywhere. So is it the cabin fever arising from people being locked up? Is it the feeling of powerlessness because of the economic downturn? What exactly is the problem? And that's the question we've been asking. And we believe that with the help of our partners, we'll get to that.
Thank you very much. At some point in time during the conversation, you will have the opportunity to talk to us about the Sexual Offenders Register in Nigeria. One of the reasons why we put this initiative, this safe space conversations together, is to get the opinion and the thoughts of members of the public, the parents and guardians as well. And I think this is a time for us to go straight into our question and answer sessions. Our resource persons for this, as I said, is Mojima Konjo-Ola and Titi Ojuri, plus our speakers, Deji Irawo and Godwin Moka. Please, we also want you to feel free to ask your questions. If you have anything, please put your hands up. The first comment I can see that I want to talk about, Mr. Moka, and hopefully you can talk about this, and Deji, is from Tinuke Odukoya. She says, one thing that has to be done is that the law enforcement agencies, especially the police, should not support powerful and rich perpetrators of sexual abuse just because they have been settled. And this is rife in Nigeria. We saw recently the case of a young girl who alleged that a popular musician, D'banj, alleged that D'banj raped her. And we saw what happened, what played in our very eyes on social media in Nigeria. The police arrested the young girl and she was put behind the bars. So what do we need to do to ensure that rich perpetrators, powerful perpetrators, do not get away?
I think that's something that, if I may just say so, where NAPTIP is a little bit different. Because our DG does not tolerate it. She doesn't even want to hear anything about rape. Anybody coming to say he wants to interfere. We've had people calling from all kinds of places asking that people who perpetrate rape should be let out. So what our DG does in the first place to make sure that at least they are detained for the compulsory 2 days before we, so that they know, even if it's at a weekend, they are detained no matter how mighty or how big they are. And cases of rape, there's nothing like settlement, there's nothing like family intervention. The cases go to court. And I think that that's something that all law enforcement agencies, that is what we ought to think, that every case of rape will be treated with the kind of severity that it deserves. There's nothing like a big raper or rapist or a small rapist, or a big man rapist or a small man rapist. Once you're a rapist, you're a rapist, and that means you are just worse than an animal. So I think that we should have the same mentality all across. But even in civil society, some civil society organizations, when they see rape cases, they start settling and start finding a way not to take it to court and so on. I know some are doing very good jobs, but there are still some who think that they are arbiters, and they begin to come between the rapist and the victim. And then we must not at any point in time speak on behalf of the victim of rape and say, no, let us settle, because most times victims of rape are intimidated. Most of the time they are ashamed most of the time they are stigmatized, so they lose their voice. So law enforcement must be seen to be heavily on the side of the victim of rape at all times to show their confidence. And that goes with the court system. In court, they must be handled with sensitivity, special courts, and precise attention. Thank you.
All right. Foluke Ademoku said she doesn't know where the raise button is, but she has a question. Please take the floor. You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Moka. My question is to you. I want to ask for maybe the ordinary person, hearing, listening to you. What is the use of the sex offenders register? Can I, see that register and use it against somebody who is aspiring for a political position? Are we going to be using it for referrals? What is the use of that register to everybody, please?
Thank you very much for looking at this. Like the sexual offender register has so many functions. One, it gives, like I said, there is the open register which anybody can access to find out those who have been convicted. So anybody who is already convicted is known, and anybody who wants to know about it, you just go check there. So if somebody wants to aspire for political office, or somebody wants to apply as your driver, or wants to be your children's teacher, or even a teacher in a school, you can go and check whether this person has been convicted. But then there's a layer which is not open to the public. All cases of rape that are reported go into that particular layer. Those who are repeat offenders, those who are still being tried in court, their names are there. So if, for example, you want to employ a driver, you want to employ somebody who is going to work with your children at any capacity, you can apply to be given access to that, because they are not convicted, so it is not open. But you can see whether this person is a serial rapist who is just getting out of, who is able to wriggle his way out, or somebody who has, influence has been pulled to make sure that it doesn't go to court somewhere, but the name is there. So we have that layer, which can be used for any purpose by members of the public, especially by those who have a special interest to ensure that those who work near their children or around them are not pedophiles.
All right. Ozibais, do you want to read the comment you have? Please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. So I've had some comments sent to me privately also. One of it is someone just sort of played a scenario on the message. So I'm just reading it. So he said his cousin and the girlfriend went on a vacation from the UK to an island. And when they got there, it was a romantic getaway. And during their stay, they were both into each other, and the girl agreed for the guy to have an oral sex with her. And during that course, the guy eventually had an intercourse with her. But then the girl is claiming, what she's saying is, yes, she agreed oral sex, but she didn't agree the intercourse. And she's trying to pursue a rape case. So how do we deal with that? So that's the comment.
All right.
The way men have been socialized is to subconsciously have this mindset that they cannot be rejected by women, or that they have a right to a woman's body. That's what you do when young boys begin to feed on a lot of pornography, begin to feed on a lot of nudity and stuff like that. It begins to shape a narrative in their mind that the day plays out as they interface with females. So in the kind of scenario you just painted now, obviously, as far as he's concerned, he believes in his narrative that he has gotten consent for them to be able to have sex and then go all the way. He wasn't going to stop midway. A lot of men don't stop midway and do oral sex and go. As far as they're concerned, the scenario is right for outright, sexual, in their own minds, a mutually consented narrative. So, and it all goes down to the way we socialize our boys. to believe that even if the girl is not willing to offer it, is something he can take by force, or it is for them is a thing of shame, or it's a thing of their ego that you can, we can start oral sex and then we stop there and we don't go all the way. I mean, what would I tell my friends? How can I say that I was that close? I started the process and I did not end the process, because every time we bring up the boy child to believe that his ego and his self-esteem is always at stake. So he does things to prove things. He does things to prove a point. He does things to show people that he's a man, which is that same man box we're talking about. Always been doing things to show that you're a man. So obviously, I can't talk about the morality of the case in terms of how the court applies, but based on the brain architecture of an average male raised in a largely patriarchal society, and one that has, society as in various, for even our entertainment is all about demeaning women, our music videos, our 5 minutes of pornography, everything just comes together to just continue to drum it into the mind, and the construct of a young male that, sex is out there for you, is just how you're going to get it. But don't ever believe that it's not out there and it's not waiting for you.
Thank you very much, sir. We need to educate men and boys on consent. Somebody actually spoke about marital rape. There can be rape in a marriage where the woman doesn't want to, and the man, some men just don't understand that you have to say no because, you're my wife. So we need to educate on consent. Before you read that, we have quite a number of people putting their hands up. Tosin Dokpesi has put her hands up. Can we have you on, Tosin Dokpesi? Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good morning. I want to ask Deji. I know he deals with men. We always have different conferences, seminars, putting women together, bringing girls together, telling them this is what should be done, that is what should be done. Deji talked about having men having great influence because of the different positions they hold. What can we do to get these men together, to talk to them? This is what should be done. This is what you need to do, so that we can have a better society. They're out there, they're busy quite all right, but we need to have conferences, seminars, bringing these men together the way women are coming together. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. The narrative here is that there's a construct that men haven't come to realize over time, that particular role that makes you a man automatically makes you somebody who leads. And there are two basic functions of a leader. It is to protect and to serve. It is to protect and to serve. But what is missing here is that there is no intentional reorientation and socializing of boy children to know that they are going to grow up to be leaders that are going to serve and to protect everywhere they find themselves in society, because that is the design. So if it's just like saying somebody has capacity. If that capacity is not identified, if it is not trained, if it is not sustained, then the capacity is just lying there. So what it takes for a man to positively impact society is very much available. But the question is, nobody is intentionally starting with the boy child from as early as 1 year or 2 year or 3 years to begin to let him know that there needs to be age-appropriate education from that young age. That is an intentional construct to ensure that at the end of the day, we have wholesome men, we have mature men, we have responsible men who would serve and to protect. You can't allow men to have such a very sensitive position in society and to ensure that they succeed at that job or at that responsibility is not an intentional narrative. So what we are saying is that all of us as society need to readdress how we bring up the boy child. We need to be honest with ourselves. Where are we making the mistakes? And I'm saying it is the fact that these things are subconsciously and consciously, said to man, which is the same man box. That you're superior to the girl, she's your sex object, you're not supposed to be emotional, you can use anger and violence to solve problems, you need to live rich and extravagant for us to call you a man, you need to be built like a hawk for us to call you a man with six-pack. And that is not the real definition of who a man is. A man is someone who has come to realize his God-given talent and to understand that he has a role to play, not only in his life, but in society, and it needs to be.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. If we can keep our comments to 1 minute, because we have quite a number of people. Ayola, take the floor for 1 minute, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. So I'm calling in from the UK. it's a very terrible pandemic, really, not only in Nigeria, but all over the world. And I say this because I think America has actually grasped this stage in which no is meant to be no. No matter how the girl is dressed, no matter wherever you got to, if she decides to stop and say no, the man should understand that no is a no and they should stop, right? I'm not saying that it is good, but we need to be able to educate each gender. And this comes from the home, really. We are not grooming men anymore. We've left them as boys and we've allowed them to now educate themselves. And this is the problem. Now, we as a company, we are building a software, ID verification software, which I would love for us to be able to plug into the register. In the Western world, we have that. We don't have that in Nigeria. So even if there is a register, I really would like to hear about that.
All right. If Techno Povoir 3 is not ready, okay, Shade Ogunlana, please take the floor for 1 minute.
Thank you, Tom. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I just want to ask DG, Mr. Moka, sorry. Is that a specific training the police have in handling rape cases? Because I know that most cases, they behaved appalling. Do we have a section of the police that's been trained specifically to handle rape cases, especially because we know how sensitive, this issue is? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. The police has a gender desk, which has been set up since about 2015, thereabouts, where police officers are trained on the issue of gender issues, how to handle cases of rape and gender-based violence. But it's not in every police formation. That's one. And secondly, not every police officer is so trained. And of course, many cases, most of the cases are by officers who do not know the difference between consent or whatever. And so the idea is to have it, so we're hoping that the police will integrate into their curricula for training of police officers so that everybody is trained to be gender sensitive. You have to raise your voice. I was just going to look at another issue that did not, but you have to raise your voice to be gentlemen, even in the private space. Even when you are alone and this person came to meet you in your private space, in your hotel room, in your house, if she says no, respect that. It's about human respect, mutual respect, and respecting a woman just like you respect a man. If a man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We need to be keeping our comments to one. I'm going to, before I call on Salome Eferemo, there's a comment here that I want us to look at. Lolade Taiwo Salvador said, how can we find a case of a man who changes his name from state to state and raping and killing people? He referred to the case of the guy who killed the woman in Lekki. Apparently, he changed his name. She said, how can we use the data bank to find out if the perpetrator is on the list? But before you answer that question, Salome Efereme has put her hands up. Take the floor for 1 minute, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here. I believe that the issue of rape, addressing it has to start from when a kid is actually small, very, very young. And basically, the female gender is more vulnerable than the male. I think part of the thing that parents need to do is to get children to know that even if the person is related to you, you have to be formal with them. You have to be very formal with them. You don't call your driver Musa, you just call him like that. He is Mr. Musa. He is not your friend. He is your worker. He's serving you. So you don't get too familiar with them. Because most of these kids get to people that they are very, very used to and they relax. Oh, I'm safe with the driver. He takes me home from school. And then when the driver is going somewhere else, you don't say anything. And when the driver tells you not to talk, you don't talk. So I believe that mothers should talk to their daughters for them to understand that the men are predators most of the times and that they are always coming for you. So don't get too friendly with them. Don't sit on their thighs. Don't hug them. Don't smile too much with them. For me, that's what I think would help us, because the male gender actually is, some would tell you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Combating rape pandemic. Don't be too familiar. Don't be too familiar. I'll quickly take on Save the Boys Initiative who wants to talk. And after that, we will have Taipei Ogumuyiwa. Okay, so let's have Save the Boys Initiative. 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much for this time, and I'm glad to see what you're doing and what Mr. Benga is talking about the men. Yes, Save the Boys Initiative and other boys advocacy group are doing quite a number of work to equip boys. The challenge we are seeing is that there have been a lot of negligence in the past, and so the work is overwhelming, trying to do all at the same time. But we are doing our best to reach out, and we want support from civil society organizations and even the government in helping to do this. We've been equipping parents, training boys, and organizing a lot of trainings and seminars in this time. Even during the International Day of the Boy Child, May 16, we did a number of work in equipping boys, and we are talking to parents on how to also pass these values from the right time. It's quite a number of work, and we appreciate what you are doing, and we'll keep pushing on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Save the Boys Initiative.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I thank you for giving me the opportunity. I just want to quickly ask Mr. Moka. Let's take, for example, the case of Busola Nakolo, who came to lay an allegation against Pastor Fatoyinbo after so many years of being abused. We talked about the lockdown and the high rate of rape and all that. So is there any special training given those who are to handle rape cases when a victim comes up after, for let's say a week or 2 weeks after being, abused? How do you handle such a case? Will they be able to get justice, or it will be viewed as it will be discarded for want of evidence, or what? That's what I want to ask him.
Mr. Moka, unmute yourself, please. 1 minute to respond. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, we do train our officers to accept even cases that are older than 2 weeks or 3 weeks. The important thing is the evidence. We're able to get the evidence, and even if we can get a little bit of collaboration, circumstantial evidence and all that, we try to use all that. But where we are going is that we are encouraging rape victims to report immediately to the police or to NAPTIP. Don't take your bath, so that you go to a hospital where they can collect biometric evidence that can be used, or biological evidence that can be used in the case. Let the doctor also talk about what he or she saw before the case goes cold. So that whatever age of the case, our officers are trained to be sensitive to assiduously investigate. Not like you're investigating any other crime. You have to take time to get all the evidence and circumstantial evidence and all that to be able to prove the case. And we are succeeding in many cases, because most of the cases we have are not live cases. They are cases that have happened about a week or two before.
Mr. Moka, can I just quickly say something? Are hospitals aware that they should carry out this test free of charge? Because if you're a rape victim, the evidence is very key. We know that. The immediate evidence is key. So hospitals in Nigeria, clinics in Nigeria, are they trained? Are they aware that they can do this free of charge without asking the person to, you have to pay 20,000 naira registration fee and all of those?
Yes, we're expanding our network. We're trying to engage with Nigerian Medical Association to discuss all this, and a guild of medical directors too. We're also trying to ensure that there are hospitals that are equipped with rape kits to be able to actually, because it's not every hospital has that capacity. So we're also trying to name some specific hospitals in so many parts of the country so that people can try to get there and so that they can collect this evidence. So it's an ongoing work, and it's something that we need to do as soon as possible. We're trying our best.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to take Taiwo Ogumuyiwa, then I'll come back to you, Aussie boys. You have a private message sent to you. Taiwo Ogumuyiwa, 1 minute, please. Thank you.
This is Bishop Peter Ogumuyiwa, the assistant of the African Church in Abuja here, and the coordinating chaplain of CAN, Christian Association of Nigeria. I'm happy to be on this platform, and I want to say that what have been said so far are things that are really helping in shaping and bringing us out of this menace that we have found ourselves. I believe that those who are involved in rape activity are possessed spiritually. And because I don't see it as an ordinary action, I see it as something that is above normal. That is abnormal. So I believe that first thing that should be done is to purge them out spiritually of this tendency and this attitude. Then the second is to now rehabilitate them after they must have repented. I believe that it needs to be approached.
Ouch, Nwokedi, you have your 1 minute, please. Unmute yourself.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you, Tom, for convening this meeting. I have just one comment, or rather two, but very quickly. One is to partially respond to a question where somebody asked that, so having somebody who is a rapist and going about to change his or her identity. So the response to this question, that is not as if that's the complete answer to it, but part of it is that the sex offenders register would address this. As long as the person has been reported and the court has found the person guilty, what NAPTIP does is to take the person's fingerprint and the person's image. So then making it difficult for the person to change his or her identity.
All right, thank you very much. Techno Povoir 3, please unmute yourself. You have 1 minute.
Good morning, madam.
Thank you.
Right, so I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but last week we got a news about a gentleman, I think it's in Nasarawa State, that raped a 3-month-old baby. And thank God he was caught. Now, I want to say that compared to the fact that the National Assembly are still debating on the issue of castration. And I'm not sure why, yes, they've made valid points why castration shouldn't be put out there. But for a man who is raping a 3-month-old baby, I think we should put some kind of a pressure on the National Assembly to consider castration for certain levels of rape. So someone like that can rape a 3-month-old, I think, I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but don't you think it's a good idea for us to make that an option for certain categories of rape? That's just my question.
I think Mr. Moka can talk about this because you represent NAPTIP. Castration as a way to combat rape. Castration, because like somebody said, if you still put the man in the prison, he can still rape a woman in prison or rape another man in prison. Castration is what she's talking about.
Yes, ordinarily we'll say that maybe that's an extreme view, but that case in Nasarawa is especially gruesome. And the gentleman allegedly confessed that he's been doing that. He's done about 24 different women and children in the state, which means that he is pathologically a rapist. So I agree with, personally, I agree with Morale that such level of gruesome races should attract castration in the list, if not a death sentence, or since we are trying to avoid the capital of punishment for crimes.
All right, Mr. Moka, before you go, Elano wants you to address the issue of abusive policemen in Nigeria. I'm aware that the Nigerian policemen do not have respect for women. I know that. And we have seen what has happened, played out in our eyes, even in Abuja here. So she said, can you address the issue of abusive policemen in Nigeria? The military, the police in uniform, they commit, oops, that's gone. They commit rape on an hourly basis in Nigeria. Prostitutes have complained how they are raped at police stations. What are they doing about this? Police actually do rape prostitutes. That's the report we are getting. How do we address this, please?
Thank you, ma'am. I think the issue is that there is this lack of respect for the rights of others that pervades all this. We're engaging 2 weeks ago, the DG had a meeting and the joint conference with the IGP, and some of these things are the conversations we're having, so that we need to bring it to the consciousness of every law enforcement officer that you have to be above board, because if there are reports anywhere, none of them will be spared, and they know that That's what the IGP said. So nobody who commits rape or does anything that is or illegal will be tolerated in the police. So I think that's the starting point. But we need to be very drastic. If such things happen to anybody, report. If it's police, report to NAPTIP. Even if we don't have a jurisdiction, the Trafficking Act is nationwide. We can take it up from there. We can get the right person to do the right thing. So don't just allow yourself to succumb to maybe a police officer and the police station and stop there. Report to others.
All right, thank you. Mr. Irawa, we'll come to you later because somebody made a comment and said the lady who said she only agreed to oral sex and not penetration. Somebody made a comment here that, you know, what did she expect? And somebody also made a comment here that the way women or girls dress should be addressed. We hope you will address that. Other boys, do you want to read the comment that was sent to you privately?
Yes, thank you. Another comment from someone, I'm presuming, yeah, it's a guy, it's a male person. So he said, how can we change the mentality of women that are above age to come out openly when they desire sex to their male friends or their husband? Because as an African home, it is morally unusual for women to ask men for sex. How can we change that mentality? And he furthermore explained that these are developed into marital homes where women feel their husband has to demand the sex from them, not vice versa, which could eventually lead to rape because the man may not be sure when she wants the sex to happen or not, and that can lead to rape. Thank you.
Dejirawa, please take that for us. Thank you.
It still goes back to upbringing, and the reality is this is the fact that we have a big issue with parenting. We have a big issue with the fact that parents are not really, you know, available to understand, you know, to ensure that the upbringing of children into wholesome and mature adults is done. So what you have basically are people just picking things here and there, learning from TV, entertainment and stuff like that, and becoming dysfunctional people. Many people who even go out and do this rape and stuff like that have also been abused themselves by house helps, uncles and stuff like that, and it sparks stuff. So the real conversation here is that we are raising very dysfunctional people as a society, and they are manifesting that dysfunction, and because of the age of social media, nothing is hidden anymore. But the damage has been done years ago because of the way we bring up children and the fact that parenting and how early they're exposed to sex without guidance, and the dysfunction starts. And when somebody is dysfunctional, he will hurt other people. He will do stuff to other people. So you're finding it on the male side, you're finding it on the female side. And then also to answer Tosi's question initially, what you said, the issue is that the men who are in the police force, people who in different places, they've all grown up from this our society. And with this mentality that men are superior to women and women are objects, everything plays out. So even when you go to police station to go and report, they just look at you and jail at you like, so what were you two wearing? It's a mentality that has sunk in so much that is not allowing us to do what we need to do because we are living out of a perceived reality of what we think change should be. So we deprive people and then we abuse people as well because they are coming to say, this is what happened. They will say, but so what were you also doing? Why? Because the quality of humanity we have is a reflection of the society we have. And that's why we need to go back to the homework. Parenting must be done right so that we can raise wholesome children going forward.
Okay, thank you very much. This is Safe Space Conversations 2.0. We're looking at rape pandemic and how to combat it. Very soon I will go to Mojima Konjola and Titi Ojuri to give us your comments. But somebody here, I don't think the person is a hacker. I don't think so. Because somebody actually mentioned that, a woman did mention that girls need to be dressed properly, and that what did the girl expect when she said she wanted oral sex and she didn't want penetration. I think with the little training I have gotten, having worked with an organization in the UK called Housing for Women for 15 years before I moved to Nigeria 5 years ago, no is no. No is no. The way a woman dresses does not warrant the man to do anything. If you're talking about the way a woman dresses, a 2-month-old and a 3-month-old were raped. So the way a woman dresses has nothing to do with it. It is about self-control. It is about us controlling ourselves. No is no. Adolescence has nothing to do with it. I mentioned marital rape. I'm hoping that at some point in time, we can discuss this at some point in time. At the point of penetration, when a woman says no, her no means no. You've got to control yourself. And at this point in time, I will just quickly take on Hafsat. Hafsat said the media has a big role to play. We have media moguls here. Morayo Afolabi Brown works with TVC. Tosin Dokbesi works with AIT. We have people here who also work with other media organizations. Media is very key in all of this. We need to keep talking about rape. We need to keep condemning rape, and we need to keep talking to the men. I'll quickly come to Mojima Kojola, for you to just make your comments as the resource back person for the initiative. Thank you, Moji.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, and thank you, panelists. You have your contributions have been very helpful, and other questions and comments that have come in also have amplified what we were trying to hit at this conversation today. But I think for me, what is what I'm very happy about today is the fact that NAPTIP is going to start like a collaboration with NMA and the Guild of Medical Owners, so that evidence will not be lost. Because if there's no evidence, you can't prosecute. And that is very, very germane to curbing rape and bringing rapists to justice. Again, I like the fact that Deji has emphasized on the need for parents. Parents, you have a role to play, because if a boy that is brought up dysfunctionally will act dysfunctionally throughout his life. And I think that it's important for parents to watch out. Parents, we are becoming too careless. We do not know what is happening, particularly with our boys and our girls. We need to be more friendly. I keep emphasizing that we need to be more friendly with our children, so that we know the things they're doing. We know the kind of friends they keep. And I also like the fact that one thing that Deji said that actually struck me is that the rapist does it in only sometimes less than 5 minutes. But the victim has a lifetime to live with it. And when we see this, we all need to put our hands together and ensure that rapists are brought to book, but most importantly, that as parents, we are there for ourselves. And before I go, finally, men need to talk to men. I think that's a good one. And Tosin spoke to that. Men need to talk to men. And I think at a point here at Safe Place, Tom and Titi, we need to invite our men so that we can have a men's conference. And
thank you very much. Thank you. You've done your 2 minutes. Titi, I'm going to come to you for 2 minutes. I have Yinka Kenny putting her hands up. We have quite a number of people putting her hands up. We have 3 more minutes to go, but we are being advised to extend. So if you want us to extend for another 30 minutes, we need you to quickly go into the chat box and say, please extend. That is the only way I can do that. I can't take the decision. I have bosses I report to, Titi, Moji, Aussie Boys, and Real African House. They're the ones who will decide if we will extend. If you want us to extend, quickly hit the chat button and say 30 minutes. Titi, please take your 2 minutes. Unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I think Moji and Omoba Ayodeji has said what I really want to say. It's about parenting. It's about how we bring up our children right from when they are young. I live in the UK, and I can categorically tell you that it's always a big issue when the government says we want to start sex education for children in primary school. I think or even right from nursery, but a lot of us African parents, we misunderstand what this is about. Yes, so I just want to say that parents, please be friendly with your children right from the very young age, where you can have conversations with them. Let them know that their body belongs to them. Nobody has the right to touch them, either boys or girls, and bringing them up in the way that we feel that it is right for us. Because some parents, I think the last time we had a forum, we were talking that a village brings up the children, not just the parents. Because some parents don't even know how to parent. They don't know how to do it. So if you don't know how to parent, please go and do your research. Ask people. Your children might come home to you and ask questions. Don't tell them, oh, it's banana, or it is, you give all their private parts, we give them names that children don't understand. Tell them in the way that they're going to understand. And so that when something untoward happens to them, they can come back home and tell you this is it, because we know that children could be groomed right from the very early age. And the perpetrators, they know how to do this. They will pick up a child and make them their special one out of the whole group. So please, parents, I want us to start, talking to our children. And if we have grandchildren as well, let's do that. And if you have relatives, children, and we see that something is quite not right about them, can we please speak to their parents, speak to the community, and then let's have an upright citizen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we have a consensus. Virtually everybody wants us to extend. So I've been told that we're going to extend till 11:30. Hopefully by 11:30 we can exhaust. Yinka Kenny, you've been putting your hands up. Yinka Kenny, please let us try and limit to 1 minute so we can have as many people to comment. Please unmute yourself. Take the floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Quickly, I want to ask my question with a narrative that happened to a friend of mine, and it's been in my head for several months. I didn't know what to do. She's a younger friend of the age of 40, actually 41. She told me that she actually went to the office of a dignitary, I don't want to call his name now, and then for a meeting. Somehow she kept on waiting, and she was in his office up until 7 p.m. And at the time he called her into the office, he shut the door, and his door is in such a way that when he shuts, he opens with his own remote, or you can just open from his table. And by the time he was attending to her, he started all the touching and all that, and she resisted, but she realized that she couldn't, even if she shouted, nobody would even hear her. And there was no point. After about some 15-20 minutes struggle, she just let go, and she was just there, and he had his way. She, in tears, she was narrating these incidents to me, and she was like, where do I complain? Can I make a complaint about this? Who would believe me? At my age, I've had about 1 million sex sessions, but this one, I just did not want to have it. Is there a test that could determine that she was actually, this act was actually done without our consent? The question she was asking me, what could she do? Who can she report to? Who can even, believe her? That's my question.
Deji, I think I'll come to you on this, please. I mean, we have quite a number of mature women saying they have been, abused. How can they speak out?
Well, for me, it's the fact that we as a society need to begin to give people a voice. I began to have a conversation that we as a society must stop these things that we do. We shame people who come out, and we stigmatize people who come out. Now, these people who rape were raised in our homes. Now, when they now rape people, we now, out of shame and stigma, we say to the people not to say anything. So the challenge now becomes, how are they supposed to do? I think it's very hypocritical. So for me, my whole conversation here is dealing with values. We as Nigerians, as Africans, looking back at our values and being honest with ourselves. And the issue is that it is hypocritical for the people who are raping to be members of a society, and the people that are raping are members of a society, and we're telling them to keep quiet, and we're shaming and stigmatizing people that were raised by people from our homes. So I think we as a society must learn to support rape victims and to come and make a very strong statement that we will no longer allow anybody to be shamed or anybody to be stigmatized.
Thank you. Thank you. Quite a number of people have made comments, and I will just help them to amplify this. Yinka Kenny, that woman needs to speak out. She needs to mention that man's name. She needs to. You see, whether anybody believes her or not, I think the first thing is for her to go public. Please tell her to feel free to call Women Radio. We will put it out on radio. Whether he's guilty or he's not guilty, it will be an allegation. She needs to speak out. She needs to mention his name, and we need to push it out. That is what she needs to do. Because you see, perpetrators know that you can be silenced. They know that you are ashamed. They know that you don't want to talk. So the first thing she needs to do, and anybody needs to do, is to call his name out. Call him out. We would help her to do that. We have quite a, I understand that, who else wants to talk now?
Yeah, there's a comment here from on the public chat. They're saying, I don't know, someone said, have we looked at the issue where women looking the other way when their husband rape their wards or children?
Okay. Women looking the other way. Mr. Moka, I think you should talk, because I'm aware that NAPTIP is also saying that once a case has been brought to the public, you will not allow people to withdraw. But now they're asking about women who look the other way because they don't want to talk. When their husbands or their partners or the men in the house abuse others.
Unfortunately, we have quite a lot of cases in which women are complicit, and when their husbands are abusing their house help, or their husband relative is abusing the house help, or even abusing their own children. So we tell them that, in fact, most times we actually tell those women that we charge them as accomplices to the rape, because sometimes they are the ones that will come and say, oh, we don't want the shame in our home and all that. So anybody who is involved, if you are aware of a rape and you cover it up, you also call people. That's what we look at.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have quite a number of people who want to talk. Ayo Jayesimi, then I'll call Franca Ayeton afterwards, and Zainab Abdul Rashid and Sister Omo. Ayo Jayesimi, please unmute yourself and take your 1 minute.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody, and so very well done. This is a really great program. I just wanted to also add to the discussion. I found out in some of the works that we have been doing that, especially in mixed schools, you have a lot of the students, the male students, actually getting into either unused classrooms, toilets, and all whatnot, and raping the other female students. There's a case that was made very public. I think last year or year before the last, that a particular school in Ikoyi, where the boys would waylay the girls, rape them, and lots of people will pass by. The security guards will take the photographs. They won't even do anything. It took a concerned parents to intervene in that, and take up the issue. I do think that as a society, we've lost our values. There has to be a massive campaign. We need to talk to ourselves as parents, talk to ourselves as a community. I think men need to be reorientated. We're talking a lot about the girl child, but I think there has to be attention on the boy child too, and then we need to actually address this issue. There have been some celebrated cases that have come up. Where's the voice? Who are those that are supporting, these people to make sure that, the victims of this rape assaults are not silenced, because the other parties are either influential or rich. And also for the media, the programs we have, most of the programs we have show women being either raped or assaulted. I think we need to change the narrative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will call on Franca Ayeton. Franca Ayeton, please unmute yourself. 1 minute.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone. I think we are having a great discussion, very timely. Mine is just an observation. We often blame a lot of things on spiritual attacks and all that, probably because in every household now you have a pastor, you have an imam. I think that criminals are criminals, and we should stop making excuses for them, either for rapists or gender violent people. So we should call a spade a spade. When somebody has raped, we should not consider that he's under any influence or anything. He's done something wrong and he should go down for it. And secondly, everybody has talked about the importance of media. particularly the music industry and the musicals we use, they portray women as objects to be used.
Can I just quickly bring us back that we're looking at rape pandemic and how to combat it. So the things we want to be talking at this point in time is what we need to do. We've identified that we need to be talking to the men, having more conversations. We need to speak up. So let's be looking at what we need to do. And so this comment says, she disagrees with the girl because once you have asked, the man is already in the mood, and that is difficult for the man to now decide not to do what she wants to do. In other words, she should not have gotten herself into that position. Omoba Deji Irawo, I need you to respond to this. So what the lady
I
is
think
saying,
we need to be sincere with ourselves and not leave it. Yeah, the issue is this. I think we need to be honest with ourselves and not live in denial. See, what I'm really trying to pass down is that working with boys and men is that from a very young age, a lot of things around us cooperate to craft a predator. Because like I said, the number one law says a boy is superior to a girl. The second rule says a girl is the object of your sexual desire. So you hear that nuances literally every area of your life. You watch it in films, you see it in videos, you hear it in audio, you see your fathers, your uncles, everybody's reinforcing that stereotype. Nobody is caught, no people are not really being brought to book, you are not seeing examples that tell you contrary. You are seeing it's acceptable behavior, and then you are seeing that at the end of the day is how many you can do, how fast you can do, how creative you can be, and then we reward you. We call you man's man, we call you playboy, we call you player, we do all that. So we intentionally craft. Pornography comes, plays its role, peer pressure comes, also plays its role to show your man who shows how many you can do to prove you're a man. So we literally are raising sexual predators by default. And then when they get to the age where they need to express this, they would, and it will continue. That is why you keep talking about, oh, you're raping a 3-month-old, you're raping an 8-month-old, and the woman is wearing an hijab. When a predator thinks in terms of prey, when you're thinking prey as a man, you're not thinking about the state of that prey. Prey is prey. And that's how, I'm keeping using the word, it's a brain wiring. You need to sit down with men and see when we talk about this thing when it comes to sex and sleep with a woman. The energy, the excitement, the vibrancy, it's as if life comes alive. It defines your masculinity and your manhood. That's what we've done. So a hunter will hunt.
Let's have you on, Sister Omo.
My contribution is, as a media person, is that we need to start changing the stories. Usually we write about the girl child, the girl child, the girl child. Over time, we forgot that there is another gender, the boy child. And as media practitioners, especially female media practitioners, the new story now is, let's focus on the boy child. Let's tell the boy child that it's not macho to molest a girl. There's nothing macho about rape, and there's nothing macho about suppressing a woman or a girl. That should be the story now. Yes, we'll keep writing about the girl child, but let's focus more now on the boy child and maybe help parents to bring up the boy child. Because the truth is that we...
Hello, Bashar.
Hello, Tom. Can you hear me?
Hi, how are you? Nakwana?
I'm fine. Please, Nakwana, thank you for having me. This is a very good, important conversation because the issue of rape, you see, affects all of us, irrespective of our religion, gender, race, or even our economic status. So everybody has an important role to play here. To curb or combat the issue of rape, definitely we have to first end the issue of impunity. Impunity in both sides. Impunity in the essence that the police ensure that the perpetrators has to be punished, has to account for their action. And the community has to work with the police. When there is a case, we need to stick to our eyes and ensure that justice has been done. And secondly, in the issue of parent, you find that some of the cases are within the victims and the perpetrators are within the one cycle, they are related. So they don't want to speak out because they don't want it to get maybe indict their family or something. It's not like that. They have to speak out. Because if they didn't do that, definitely if he get away with it, and he is going to do it to another person. So it is a good one to make sure that we have to make sure that he has to pay for it. So we have to speak out. Then that is for the parent also has to keep eyes on their children. They should not allow them to go closely, even to the relatives, to make sure that they are watching them, also educating them. This is a very, very important issue because it's spoiling our society. That is the truth, at least. That's my take.
Thank you, Nagode. Olakito iPhone, please take the floor.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. My own take is that the issue of policemen and family members asking for cases of rape incident to be settled out of court, they should also be classified as accomplices, and that even the act of asking for out of court settlement should be criminalized. So we should be asking for laws to be enacted that such acts should be criminalized. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Straight to the point. Can we have Shitu Yunus?
Oh, good morning, everyone. This conversation has been a very eye-opening one, and I want to commend everybody who has been participating actively. So my comment is sexualization of our girls, I think, is also approaching a pandemic level, which should be treated as such. The contents we see in our media are actually encouraging rape culture. And just like a brother of mine said earlier about how men or boys, not all actually, but the victims, the perpetrators see abusing or sexual assault as a means of portraying their macho or whatever it is they call it. I think there is a need for us to enforce disciplines, grave disciplines that is going to scare people off from this. So my question will be, what is NAPTIP actually doing to help combat the rise of sexual assault in schools as well?
Moka, that is a very important question to you. What are you doing to combat sexual assault in schools? Shitu Yunus is a 24-year-old young boy, and he's actually hosting a webinar for young people tomorrow. So I can understand why he's asking that question, Mr. Moka. Unmute yourself. He's asking you, what are you doing to address sexual assault inside schools?
Thank you very much. We have actually been going around to schools. In fact, we've had so many cases of children reporting that they have been assaulted at home. In fact, there was a school we went to somewhere in Lagos, and the DG just said, if you have had any sexual molestation in your house, come out. Ma'am, we had about 100 girls lining up to speak in one school. So it's like we say that it's a hidden pandemic, and it's also part of what I will be having in this social dysfunction. We need to educate both the men and the women, and there's so much poor parenting. There's so much parents need to be educated because they leave their children and they think that once they give them enough money, they buy their iPhones, they make sure that they have enough data, their DSTV is on, that they have done their job. It is not pocket money. It's about your own attention. And I think that we need to tackle modern parenting. It's so loose, and it also predisposes children to being in the hands of predators and make them easy prey to anybody who can give them attention.
Thank you very much. We have about 5 more minutes to go. I'll come to the real African housewife to make your comment, and after that, I go to Tokwe Oguntana.
Yeah, my question is actually for Mr. Moka. He did mention that the sex offender list had to be applied. When you say applied, did you mean that people have to pay for this information? Is it free to find out information about people that are on sex offender list already?
Well, like we said, that the ones that you have to apply for is names of those that have not been convicted. So if you need them, If you need them, you have to apply. Right now, there's no fee, but I'm not saying that there will be no fee because there will be administrative costs to that. But the one that is open is the list of convicted. Anybody can check without paying anything. But if you need more information, you need to dig deeper. You have to apply because that list is protected. That's all.
Thank you very much. I will now call on Oguntana. Tope Oguntana, please take the floor.
Okay, good morning, and thank you, Tom. Thank you for the organizers and the participants. And I'm so glad that a lot of things have been raised. My question is, and I think, I don't know who to address this to. Yes, we've cited all those things, we've trashed it all out. What exactly do we have in place? It's not just about education. Do we have anything where rehabilitation comes into play? You hear things about, in America, in Hollywood, you hear about the sex addicts anonymous and things. There are some people who genuinely have unfortunately been molested, and unfortunately they have kept this to themselves, and the level of depravity has actually increased due to their lack of help, you know? And like they just said, they've gone ahead to become like pest predators, right? What actually do we have in our country? I don't live in Nigeria, but what do we have to address this, to help people for rehabilitation, whatever it takes? Because some people genuinely might want to be reformed, but they just don't know where to go to. What do we do?
Okay, who wants to take that? Rehabilitation for survivors. Moka, Mr. Moka, do you know what we are doing?
Yeah, I think that she's talking about not just survivors, but also those who have been abused.
Predators.
Who are predisposed to becoming
predators. Oh, sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Tope is actually talking about predators, perpetrators, rapists.
Yes.
What are the rehabilitation services we have for them?
That's what I'm saying. That's what she's talking about. And I think that we need to go there. It's just another aspect of our conversation. I would say that right now, I don't think there is much in that direction. I think it's something that needs to be really taken very seriously.
Thank you. Deji, I want you to talk about that because I'm aware of a few organizations that actually rehabilitate men that have abused in the past. So maybe you want to talk about that. Please unmute yourself because that's a very important aspect Tope is bringing on board.
I'll be very honest to say that in that area, there's not much has been done. What most men networks do is more to issues of mental health, issues of depression, issues of violence and abuse. But to have where you can rehabilitate sexual predators, that's an initiative. I don't think there's much around, but I know that there's a lot for mental health, there's a lot for depression, there's a lot for violence and stuff like that. But for sexual, there are one or two people I know who have expertise in that area that do counseling and stuff. But I don't think as a government there's anything in place, and I don't think as institutions or NGOs, I don't think that there's much. But it's not at the scale that compared to the problem. I don't think it's at that scale yet, but it's something we need to look into.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moka, I think you should take this further with government officials. That's a very valid point that Tope made. There are perpetrators, there are predators, they may have done their time, they may have gone to prison, but then you need to rehabilitate them back into the society and help with whatever issues they have. So I think as a government official, that is something you need to take away. This is Safe Space Conversations 2.0. At this point in time, I'm going to call on Deji Irawo to give us your 1 minute last word. I'll come over to you, to Mr. Moka, then I'll come to Titi, I'll come to Moji, I'll come to Ozzy Boys, and then the Real African Housewife. Thank you. Deji, take the floor now. Unmute yourself, sir. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself and start all over again.
Yeah, I'd like to use my 1 minute to really appeal to women. We need to stop living in denial, because when women have had enough, enough will be enough. I want to see women really come out and say, this is enough. There are no protests at the garbage that NBC is showing us in the theme of entertainment. When you look at this shame and stigmatization stuff, a lot of women are the perpetrators. Because when we say women should come out and not be accomplished to rape, they rape your daughters. When the husband decides to leave them, they're the one that will shame them and say, I'm not in your husband's house. It's mothers that allow their children, their daughters, to marry men that they are not really comfortable with, because you want them to, now they've gone to school, they have a job now, I want to be a grandmother. So you allow them to be exposed to men who would do stuff to them and everything. So I think at a point, we women need to understand that we have a responsibility in our hands, and we need to be able to take this, but enough is really enough. And when women have had enough, you will know they've had enough. And I want to see that happen here, because a lot of times we are also part of the problem, with all due respect.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moka?
Thank you very much. I think if I take it from there, I think we need to empower women. Because most women are unable to speak because they totally depend on their husbands. We need to empower women to be economically strong, to be able to speak. Most of them cannot speak because they are disempowered. And then we need to close ranks on law enforcement level, so that we all react the same way to issues of rape with severity and with sternness. Civil society also needs to network with us so that we all close ranks across the country. We need to attend to this pandemic as a national emergency.
Thank you very much. Mojima Controller.
Thank you, Tom. I mean, I got carried away with the conversation. Well, it's important for us to start thinking in the way of rehabilitation, both for the perpetrators and victims as well. And well, I've heard that a lot of the panelists have emphasized on mothers. Parenting is double, father and mother together. Oftentimes, it is not just about the woman. It is that the man also should be involved with what the children are doing. So it is a collaborative effort of both parents. I know that the woman to the, but please, we should encourage fathers also to be involved. Then we need to check out on house helps. House help, they have become bullies and they have become a lot of perpetrators too. We need to check them out. And more than anything else, on behalf of the media, I'm saying that the media, we have a lot to do in containing this pandemic. And so media must not be ashamed to speak to sexuality and the problems associated with rape. I know that together, all of us can make a change.
Thank you very much. Titi Ojuri.
Yeah, I was going to refer to all fathers as well, that the job is not only women's alone. Fathers should bring up their children, especially their male child, up in a way in which they will respect women. And that's it for me, really. That's it. Thank you.
And the Real African Housewife?
I was going to say this is a great opportunity and it's a great start for us. And I think everything starts from here. If everybody on this platform can go back home and relate to everybody that they know in the way that they should, I think there will be a great change in our community. And this is a good start for us.
All right, okay. Ozzy Boys is back. Your 1 minute, please.
Okay. I think for me, my pointers would be that as a male or as a man, we need to understand that, that situation that you find yourself that you think you cannot resist is only for a moment. There's always going to be another opportunity. So having that in mind will automatically prevent you from being alleged as a rapist or being put in a situation where you feel you want to do it. By all means, it's just Deji said, it's probably a 5-minute situation where you think it must be done, but really, realistically, it's not a do or die situation. So that's my contribution.
So thank you. I have quite a number of things to say before I do our takeaway. The first thing is that this conversation is going to continue. We need to talk about rape and how to combat it. The second thing is we're going to do a session where we're going to profile rapists. We have been given the profile of rapists. So we're going to be working with Aisha B and Muria Mata. We have a profile of rapists and we will profile them out so that parents can see. And we're hoping to take this to schools. We'll be talking to the Ministry of Education as well and NYSC so that we can take this to schools and profile a rapist to children to see. I have also been told to let you know that we're likely to continue this conversation at our next session. The takeaway for us here is that we should never blame the victim, but we should put the blame on the predator and the perpetrator. There has to be conversations for men. We need to have this kind of conversations, boys only and men only conversations, where we have the likes of Deji Irawo and Moka and other gentlemen like the Boys Initiative to come out and speak to men, real men talking to men. We need to teach on consent. We need to explain what consent means to boys and especially to men. No means no. No doesn't mean I'm thinking about it. It's not maybe, is not I'm thinking. No is no. We spoke about raising boys properly. The same way we raise our girls, we need to start raising boys properly now. Reporting things to NAPTIP is another thing I have picked up here, and that mental health issue is something we need to address as well, and the case of impunity must not be allowed. NAPTIP, I'm hoping that you can share. I know that Ene Ede has shared NAPTIP telephone number here, but if you can also send the telephone number. All the comments we have here today, we're going to put it in a policy document. If you want to have it, please send an email. We already put the email address there. If you would like us to discuss any topic in future, please send us an email. If you would like to speak, or you know somebody that you're passionate about and you think they have something to share with us, please put it here. On behalf of our speakers, Deji Irawo and Mr. Moka, we would like to say thank you very much for joining us on Safe Space. My name is Tom Okiwale Shonaya. Have a good day.
WFM 91.7.